Right, Henry, so we're back in talking about ads, and we have seen it all over the last 30 years. We've seen people who absolutely waste money and people who spend money really wisely. And for me, they fall into two buckets: people who are watching the data and people who are not watching the data. So talk to me about reporting.
Okay, well, very, very simply, I was with a potential client who's coming in to see us on Monday. And one of the things that they have not done with their previous sort of arrangement, agency stroke, whatever that person is that they've obviously no strategy moving forward. So I basically had said to her that if you have nothing to measure, how on earth can you actually figure out what's working and what's not?
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that if you haven't got a clear strategy with a clear measurable strategy, then that which cannot be measured can't be changed, Chris. So that's so important, because if you don't get into the car and drive around random, you actually have a location. So if you've got, whether it's your strategy, what your target market is, if you've no target market, you're.
Well, for me, like whenever I look at any of our ad accounts that we're running and other people that come to let us like dwell into all their metrics and what's going on inside their business, I notice one massive thing, and most agencies hide from the results because one, it can make them look really good or make them look really bad the next month.
Right.
And what happens is they don't like real-time data because real-time data doesn't give them the runway to fix things quickly. And we have some clients that we work with and we actually report on a daily which
basis, right.
is mostly a no-no in our agency world because people don't like to show what's going wrong on a daily because they don't have the time to go and fix it. But the thing about sharing data like that is that collectively, if you're working with your customer, you can both be working together to actually fix any problems and any issues.
Yeah, I think one of the things you've said something there, it's a partnership. The reality is if someone's putting cash into our possession, we are stewards of that. The key thing is, we've talked about this with a client yesterday, if you're going to spend £1 on an ad, you need to get 3 or 4 back. The reality is, and that has to cover, so that's your return on your ad spend, but you can't do that without a measurable strategy. If you don't know your target market, which a lot of guys genuinely don't seem to know, then how can you actually put your pound in front of that target market? What content which will actually drive, what resonates with that target market? What cash do you need? What content is actually going to scratch the itch, the pain point that allows you to get a response?
Yeah. And then one of the things that I notice all the time is people focus on one single metric rather than a blended metrics. So what they do is they maybe look at one single product that's maybe selling, and they look at what their CPP is on it, and they're thinking, oh, it's went up £2 this month and it was £2 less the month before. And what they're not looking at is a blended version of that across all the different platforms. So you could be running TikTok ads, Google ads, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and maybe one of those platforms performs better than the other. And that's where you can measure and tweak things. But without you really, really dialing down into the data, you're going to waste a ton of money and a ton of sleepless nights as well, worrying about things that aren't as important as what they actually seem like on that daily. So one of our things that we like to look at is a blended across the month, rather than showing like this is what happened on a Tuesday afternoon, whenever maybe everything happens on the weekend, that maybe all the sales come through on the weekend, but maybe a lot of people then just focus on it's a Tuesday night and things are going terrible, my business is falling apart. And it's so important to look at things over a blended ratio. And we like to look at things called MER, inside marketing, which is your marketing efficiency ratio. And it's basically, it's not just looking at maybe your ad spend, it's looking at maybe the money that you're spending acquiring customers, the money you're spending on billboard campaigns, the money you're spending on radio, and then you're blending that across the whole board. So you're getting like the efficiency ratio of everything you're doing. So it's big picture is really important as much as the real micro stuff.
One of the things, again, and I don't hear this being talked about, is buying behaviours. And because with a lady last week who sells some creams for eczema and stuff like that, she wasn't very clear about who her target market was. Anybody with a blemish. Okay, so I said, have you done the research of what that actually looks like from a medical perspective? Spoke to another person in regard who's in the travel industry, and they were concerned about how their budget was maybe being wasted Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And obviously the easiest thing for us to say was, when do people check out holidays? It's potentially usually near the weekend, where they're getting near the weekend, where that feel good type of thing. So it's always good to look at the seasons, band behaviors, the profile of the client, and start to put content.
Yeah. So for us, we use a whole load of tools to be able to communicate to our clients what's working, what's not working. And one of the big things that we really focus on is these little snapshots throughout the week to let people see that this is what's happening. And then at the end of the month, actually sitting down and going, right, okay, what ad creatives really worked here? How do we double down on that? How do we make more of what's successful? And how do we stay away from the stuff that we've maybe tested and it didn't work out? And it's such an important thing for working with clients is that you spend that time minimum once a month, that you're sitting down with them and you're talking to them, looking them in the eye across the table and speaking with them, and then communicating on even a daily or even on a weekly, that you're communicating this is what's going on. So if you're not measuring what's going on inside your advertising, you're guessing, and when you're guessing, you're paying Meta and you're paying whatever platform you're advertising on direct debit just to test.
Yeah, you have to. And getting back to the target market and the customer ban experience, is sometimes when you're speaking to not the business owner or the market or whatever in the business, you need the right information, Chris.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we're not getting the right information, because we've actually had this with two partners actually lately, where one had it's all about the reach, and then the other one was saying, okay, it's about brand reach, it's about brand building, but the other one says, no, it's about targeting. You need people with the right information, because if you don't get that right at the start, the finish is not going to be right.
Yeah, funny. Just as you're chatting here, I'm reading our book that we've published on Amazon, and it's got this exact thing inside. It's on page 70 of our book, and it's basically saying that ads don't fail you. It's just that they quietly mug you while you're waiting for the algorithm to learn what you're doing. So for us, if you're not watching the numbers, you're not looking at the data, you're going to start failing, and you're going to do it across the board. If you're spending £1,000 a month or you're spending £90,000 a month, it's the same thing, except the more money you throw at it, the quicker you're going to figure out things that are going wrong.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, so look, if anybody's interested in finding out a bit more about how you can run your business by the numbers, by the book, from people who have been in the industry for the last 30 years. We have our book here, and it can help you learn, get a handle on what's going on inside your business, and more importantly, avoid any of the media gurus out there who are telling you everything's going well whenever everything's burning down. So we have combined everything that we know into this little book, and we're willing to give it away to anybody who's currently a business owner, wondering what's going on inside their business and wondering how do we grow this company over 2026, and you're running ads right now. So this book is made for you, and if that's you and you're listening right now, drop us a little message and we will send you a copy of this, because we want you to win. We are absolutely behind so many business owners to see them succeed in what they're doing and not get mugged off by other agencies.
Yeah, and the words of Hot Chocolate in the song, everyone's a winner, baby.
Yeah, so we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening in on the Business Hustle from Henry and Chris.
Yep, amen.